All right, guys, we got a good one for you. This is going to look like it's a CANBUS video. This is a 14 Mercedes E350. I've got the cluster pulled out. I went a little bit in advance this one. I've got a lot of codes for no communication with the cluster. The cluster does come on. I'm going to go ahead and plug it in so you can see what it does. Okay, I just plugged it in. Okay, I'm out of battery, looks like. Yeah. But the car does start, and you end up with all these lights on. You get a service power steering message, and power steering is stiff, it's off, and all the modules pretty much give an error, no communication to the instrument cluster. The cluster does not show up on a scan. So I went ahead and checked the powers and grounds to the cluster, and they had all the powers and grounds going to the cluster. The fuses were all fine. You've got some fuses in the front, I believe. You had 3 fuses in the front, and those were all fine. And at this point, I decided to check. There's 2 CAN buses that come into the cluster at the back. There's the chassis CAN and the interior CAN bus, and I'm going to show you that real quick. So here's the connector. You test your powers and grounds on, if you can see that, that is pin 1 right there at the top corner, pin 9, 10, and 18. You go on pin 1, you got power. I'm getting battery voltage, I'm sorry, ground, which is the thick brown wire. Then the red and white wire is number 4. That is battery voltage, and I have that. Now you got pins 12 and 13, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Those are CANBUS, I believe, interior, and this is chassis CAN, which is 17 and 18, the last 2. These 2 I'm getting a reading, and these 2 nothing. I'm going to show you in a second. So this is one of the reasons I kind of like the CAM50. I use it as a scope sometimes, and it's on the voltage AC setting, and as you can see, we're jumping from 2 to 5 volts, and we've got a square wave there. You don't get the best readings with this, but it lets you see if you got a signal. I'm going to go ahead. I'm in 18. I'm going to move to 17 now. Now we're in 17. As you can see, we still got our square wave, and you can see we're plugged in there and what we're doing. So that just tells us that we do have square waves going on there. So now let's go to 12 and 13. Now I'm in 12, and as you can see, it's trash. So there's going to be our issue. I'm going to connect to 13 now, and now we're in 13, and as you can see, it looks just like 12. So our issue is going to be on that bus, which I believe is the interior CAN bus. So what I'm going to try to do now is possibly look at another leg upstream on this bus and try and see if I can connect the cluster to that and see if everything returns normally, and then or see if the bus is even down from somewhere else, and I'll continue with you in a second. All right, guys, correction. The interior CAN bus is actually 17 and 18, which are the brown wires. It's this brown and red right here. Then you've got this yellow and white, which is the chassis crown, which is actually 12 and 13, right? And these have a junction block, which is located right here. See that in the driver door? Under this, you got to open these 2. So sometimes water gets in there and it can cause issues like that. So I'm going to open these 2, and there should be the bus bar in there. Get you a shot of this, man. This is the hardest carpet I've ever seen in my life, man. I got gloves on just to try to rip this off, but there they are right there. Got the green and the blue bus. Right, as you probably seen by the diagram, this is the driver's side, and the one we need is actually under the passenger seat. That comes to these yellow and yellow and white wire. So it's under that driver's seat, like somewhere right there, pretty much. So got to get to that. Guys, back at the Mercedes 2014 E350, and I spoke with a customer, got interesting news. When I did a little digging, the actual yellow CAN bus is basically like right here behind the passenger seat. right? And the customer told me when I let him know I had to disassemble the car, it was going to be a different price basically. He let me know, and I told him I have to get under the passenger seat. He told me something interesting. He said that his brother was sitting here and supposedly spilled coffee. And here's what I noticed. You see that? That is residue of coffee. And basically that CANBUS runs literally right here. So I'm thinking on this car what we're going to have is the coffee spilled, and it's causing basically it's bringing down the CAN bus. So we're gonna, and which is affecting everything, all the other systems on that bus. So we're gonna remove this passenger seat to get to the CAN bus and disassemble and clean probably, and that should solve it. But let's see what happens, what we find when we get in there. Okay guys, it's actually on the front part of the seat, not in the rear, but same difference. So as you can see, here's the front of the car, basically right there. Right here, the front bolt. This is the section right here. So pull this up. It's kind of a pain to get this thing out of there, and you can see it down there. There's the bus bar. So I'm going to get into there and do some cleaning and maintenance. Let's see what we find. Okay, I know some of you guys are probably screaming at this diag. Yeah, I checked everything here. I didn't see any sign of water intrusion or the coffee. So I started having doubt, especially the way this is made for the water to be able to get in there or whatnot, except for a flood. Then I looked over the diagram and I realized that, you know, you got to excuse me, this is one day after and I got memory issues, okay? So the color in there is green and white, and this is yellow, obviously. So yeah, that's an issue. So there's another connector that's for the I believe this is called Chassis CAN E1, I believe is what it is, which is the green connectors. Now, here's another problem. I already knew there was an issue. I found this the first time when I went to the rear SAM. There was missing a fuse for the gateway module, as well as there was an issue with, oh, look at that. See that headlight? Look at this headlight. It's off. That fuse constantly blows in the back. Obviously we know what's going on there, right? So come to find out, these headlights, the modules, are on the same network, the green network, the Chassis CAN. It's not on the diagram, by the way, so that caused me a lot of issues. So I'm gonna unplug this headlight now and let's see what happens. Okay guys, I disconnected the light. Car started, lights went off, and we got power steering again. So, lesson learned here, sometimes the diagrams ain't always right. The headlights were not on the diagram, but they were on that network, and that bad headlight full of water was blowing the fuse in the back, which I already knew. But what I didn't know was that light was also on the network, and that's what brought down the network. So disconnecting the light fixed the problem. So I pretty much did all of this for nothing. But now you know, in case anybody needs to know where these network connections are, now you know where they are. So like and subscribe, guys, and see you on the next one.